This is Embodied from PRX and WUNC. I'm Anita Roesch. Margaret Roesch and Pat McAulay got together in their 40s, and as two lesbian women who'd come out in middle age, they were keenly aware of the challenges experienced by queer elders.
We certainly heard the stories of people having to go back in the closet if they go into assisted living or nursing homes, people being abused or discriminated against in housing. We knew that that future was not very bright.
After struggling to find a senior housing community that fit their needs, they decided to build their own. We'll hear that story. Plus, a younger activist describes other housing options for queer elders and the stakes younger folks have in creating more of them.
I started to meet transgender women who were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and that gave me hope. Like, how could I not help pave the way for elders who did that for me to be here?
Those stories just ahead on Embodied. By the time Pat McAulay and her wife Margaret Roesch were in their 40s, they already had a concrete dream for their later-in-life era.
If you talk to any group of lesbians, everybody will say, we should live together and take care of each other when we get older.
Throughout midlife, Pat and Margaret pressure-tested this vision through regular beach trips with 10 to 15 people sharing a big house.
Those beach trips were magical. Always something going on, always somebody to talk to, always somebody to play a game with or go for a walk with. It was like, this is what it could be.
But when they reached retirement age and started planning more concretely, that vision felt more like a fantasy.
Just the idea of a multi-story house doesn't work for seniors. So, that was the very first thing. It's like, okay, we can't have a big house. We have to do something different.
This is Embodied, our show about sex, relationships, and your health. I'm Anita Roesch. Pat and Margaret had specific criteria in mind when searching for the right place to retire around other queer folks, and they couldn't find exactly what they wanted. So they decided to build a place of their own. This 28-unit neighborhood now lies on 15 acres of land in Durham, North Carolina. It's called Village Hearth, and they've been living there since 2020. Village Hearth is the first co-housing community in the country built specifically for LGBTQ seniors and allies. This group faces distinct challenges in older age, from isolation to struggles in accessing care and services because of their sexuality. In national surveys of queer elders, one of the top-line concerns is finding a physical space to live and age safely and openly. That was a big motivating factor behind Village Hearth, especially because Pat and Margaret both came out in middle age and did not want to have to go back in the closet. They also knew the perils of isolation. In the early years of their relationship in Durham, they had built a strong queer community. And then a big life transition disrupted it. Here's Margaret.
We moved to South Florida for my job, and I thought, well, certainly we'll be able to build a robust social circle in Florida because we did it in Durham.
Yeah.
And that was not to be. We tried everything. We went to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship Church. We tried to build community with our work colleagues. We went to the LGBTQ center. And everything we did just fell flat. In 8 years that we lived there, we were never invited out to dinner with anybody. Most of my work colleagues were 20 years younger than me. And, I would maybe get invited occasionally, or it was a desert. It was really sad. It was just the two of us.
Yeah, it was really Margaret working all that on her own because I decided to transition into teaching.
Okay.
So I needed to do college courses to get some credits that I was missing in order to do that. And then once I started teaching, that was my total focus. And so she was left at home at night while I was still grading papers or planning for the lesson for the next day, trying to stay a day ahead of the kids. So she was on her own a lot. And it was so weird in South Florida because people would say, we moved here and we can't make any friends. And it's like, there's all these people who are here who can't make friends. So why aren't we making friends with each other?
Yeah.
It was very strange, but we did not fit in. We're Birkenstock wearing lesbians, and they're pretty people in South Florida.
Did you feel comfortable in your relationship there, like being fully out, being fully kind of yourselves in the way that you had been in the community you'd built in Durham?
I could not as a teacher.
Okay, tell me more.
We were warned specifically that people had been fired from their jobs for being out. And so I was actually out to my colleagues, but I couldn't talk to the kids about it. And so we really had to watch carefully. I hated that piece because, we came out so late, we didn't want to have to go back in the closet again.
So after 8 years, you did decide to move back to Durham. How was your relationship with your sexuality and the experience of having lived for a while in a place where you didn't feel comfortable? How did that affect your thoughts moving back to Durham about what you wanted next?
Well, we knew that we could be out in Durham.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, it was, like shedding this cloak of invisibility, So we were very comfortable with the idea. We knew we wanted to be here.
Well, I'm curious about, like, as you watched your older friends or older queer folks age, like, did you hear stories about their experiences in older age trying to find housing or trying to figure out what to do that informed your thoughts about what you all wanted?
I don't think we had anybody in our circle, but we certainly heard the stories.
What were the stories you heard?
Horror stories of people having to go back in the closet if they go into assisted living or nursing homes, people being abused or discriminated against in housing. And so that, the warnings were out there already. We knew that future was not very bright.
What kind of conversations were you having at that point about the next chunk of your life? At this point, you all were in your 50s. Is that right?
Our late 50s.
Late 50s.
And we were getting ready to retire.
Okay.
So, it's like, well, what are we going to do now? Where are we going to live? And we knew we didn't want to buy another place right away. So we rented apartments and tried to figure out what's it going to look like. So once we figured out co-housing, there's lots of co-housing in Durham, and we looked at everything that was here, but nothing was handicapped accessible. Everything was multi-story, and almost all of it was multi-generational. And we started looking at that concept, and we go, I don't know that we want to be around a lot of families with young kids. So we were looking at a 55-plus community. And the more we looked, the more we realized it wasn't here already. And it's like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? We love Durham. So we started going to conferences, doing a lot of research. And we decided maybe we were going to have to build our own.
So it was clear that there were experiences of discrimination that elder LGBTQ folks experienced that you all had heard about. You were trying to think about what you wanted for yourselves and looking at models that existed. What led you to co-housing and being curious about co-housing in particular? And maybe explain a little bit about what co-housing is so we can understand the appeal.
People are living in their own individual homes, but they're living in a tight community. Ours is 28 homes. We're on 15 acres, but our homes are only on the 5 acres. So we're very close to each other, the way the homes are built. You are not in each other's business, but you have a relationship with most everybody in the community in some way or another. But the point is that it's like the old-fashioned neighborhoods where you know when something's going good or bad in someone's home. When somebody's sick, somebody needs something, you need to take somebody a meal or give them a ride to the doctor or help them out with something. And anytime you need help, you can put out a plea and the help is there. So co-housing, you have your own discrete home that's fully functioning. You have your own kitchen and everything. But our homes are small. These are condos. You own them. And then there's a shared common house that does have a big kitchen that we can share. And we have group meetings there, group meals. The idea is these are people who didn't want to be alone and isolated. They don't want to be in a regular neighborhood where you can just drive in to your garage and put down the garage door and never see your neighbors again. this is where you have to walk from your car down a sidewalk to your house, and maybe you're going to stop and talk to your neighbor for a few minutes and see what they're up to today and see who's playing cards tonight or what's going on the weekend. And I like that kind of thing. Some other people may say, "Oh no, there's no way," but for me, that's my life. This is what I love.
I'm curious, Pat, you are more of an introvert. How do the dynamics of a co-housing space work for you?
It's really a good place for introverts because we get to pick and choose what we participate in and when. I want to go back to co-housing.
Yeah.
Co-housing is a way of living as much as it is as the design that supports that. And so, like Margaret was saying, the proximity of the homes, you run into each other, even just a nod with somebody to acknowledge that you're on the earth is helpful in reducing isolation.
It's actually designed in a way to promote spontaneous interaction. I know that you all didn't have experience with real estate really or design, but you did work with someone who understood co-housing. Can you talk about the specific design elements that were considered when you made Village Hearth to make it a space that would facilitate that kind of shared community?
Sure. We had a preliminary design or idea from the architect, but the design elements are that we, when we worked with the architect on the workshop, he had us lay out things on the site plan, lay out little houses on the site plan, and then he said, "Okay, now try to bring those closer together. Can you bring it any more closer together? Because every foot of sidewalk is costing you money." And we also did an exercise with people standing like 100 feet apart and walking toward each other, and then they were each to stop when they felt comfortable.
Wow.
And so from that, he got an average distance of how far our houses could be.
Just ahead, we'll hear how Pat and Margaret convinced other queer seniors to join their close community and how they've tackled difficult conversations about identity in the 5 years Village Hearth has been open. You're listening to Embodied from North Carolina Public Radio, a broadcast service of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. You can also hear Embodied as a podcast. Follow and subscribe on your platform of choice. We'll be right back. This is Embodied. I'm Anita Rao. In 2015, Margaret Roesch and her wife Pat McAulay began building the retirement community of their dreams. The two wanted to age in a place where spontaneous connection was built into the fabric of daily life and where they could be in proximity to other LGBTQ elders. Their co-housing community, called Village Hearth, opened in 2020. It's built on 15 acres of land in Durham, North Carolina, and consists of 28 single-dwelling homes and a shared common house. But long before they could break ground, Pat and Margaret started convincing other queer seniors to join them, which involved a little creativity.
We laugh about selling air. Once we had land, it was a little easier to say, we want to build this cooperative community where people care about each other, and we're going to do it here in North Durham on this land. Do you want to come? You want to know more?
How much of the pitch was about it being a space for LGBTQ folks versus older folks? I know that it's obviously a space for both, but I'm curious about how you all talked about that and how you represented the vibes that you were looking for.
Right. Yeah. We decided that we were going to be open about wanting an LGBT community, and we were not going to fear whatever would happen.
Like
as
by
a result
putting
of
that out there explicitly.
Yeah. We wanted it to be known. It was not a secret community. And so we did advertising in the Indy and sponsorships on WUNC for local things, and then Lesbian Connection, Gay and Lesbian Review, the Washington Blade, and that's how we picked up people from ultimately 12 states and Canada.
Wow. So tell me about the people who did move in. You said you had representatives of 12 different states. What kind of stories did you hear about why people wanted to live in a space like this?
Every story is so different. That somebody said she was closeted the whole time through her work.
Wow.
And she wanted to be able to be out when she retired. Somebody else is an ally and said, but she has a gay daughter who lives in the Triangle area and wanted to move from where she was living to be close to her daughter and her wife. Someone else was leaving a relationship, moved across the country, and was going to be single as an older adult and said, I just want to be I want to be included. I want to be in a community. And other couples have joined us and said, I don't like where I'm living now. I want to be out. I want to be able to hold hands with my partner. I want to be able to kiss her or him when we greet each other. And I want to be able to use terms of endearment. And I want to be able to fly a gay flag or have a bumper sticker on my car. And, I'm tired of having to be cautious where I live now. Had several people move from the South, from Texas or Florida, for those reasons, because it's not as safe there.
Yeah. There are 28 different units. And I know that when you all are recruiting people, like you're obviously intentional about saying this is who this community is for, LGBTQ folks and allies. Legally, you can restrict it to people 55 plus, but you can't legally restrict it just to people who are LGBTQ. So how do you talk about sexuality in the recruitment process? How do you navigate those conversations? Pat?
We still say that it's LGBT focused, that it was built by and for LGBT folks and their allies. And we always have to say that it's 55 plus because we are using that exception to the fair housing laws to restrict it to that. We don't ask anybody for their gay card.
Yeah, there's no proof required.
There isn't. And so there are some people who live in our community who we don't know.
Yeah.
If they're on the spectrum or not. And that's fine.
Yeah.
We use it in our advertising all the time. So people are aware that that's the intent of the community.
How do you all, given that it was such a priority and intention to make this a space where everyone felt safe and affirmed, how do you balance the needs and desires of allies and of LGBTQ folk in like your programming? Is that something you're thinking about? Like, how do we make sure this overall community has a good balance at any given time? Or is that part of the calculation of deciding who's going to live in the community? I don't
count. And I don't do percentages. Sometimes people go, well, we need to be, X percent this, X percent that. And I go, I don't even know what some folks identify as.
Yeah.
And some folks have changed their identities since they've lived here. So I don't ask. And it's not important to me.
Yeah.
I want to honor everyone's life. And it's not relevant to me. So when somebody wants to do percentages and wants to count things up, what am totally honest about is how many male residents we have and how many female residents we have, because we are very female skewed right now.
Okay.
Which is pretty typical of co-housing.
Okay.
But we're rather extreme.
How extreme?
We have 4 men right now.
4 men out of how many total residents?
About
30,
35.
Okay.
Yeah. They're really nice guys.
Yeah.
And they like being around women. So Let's
talk about the co-housing piece of it specifically. That's as you said, it's not just kind of the design of the space, but it's the shared responsibility, it's the shared decision making. So maybe paint us a picture of what it's like to be there on an average week in terms of your responsibilities in co-housing and how the actual community operates.
Mm-hmm. So we have a number of teams, committees, if you will, who divide up the work. So you may be on a team that meets once a month, and you may be on a team that meets more often. Almost everybody's on a meal squad, and so we have a rotation, a 6-week rotation for that, where we do one community meal a week. We celebrate holidays really well. People really are enthusiastic about contributing to those kinds of celebrations. We have meetings of the whole group, or plenary meetings, where we make decisions together. And that's been a long learning process for how do we make decisions together with all these people. But
Is there an example that
there.
comes to mind of the challenges of that, a decision that you all had to make where doing it with that many people?
Well, I can give a funny example.
Yeah, Margaret, you have an
Maybe
example?
Pat will come up with a serious one. So we have, on our patio, we have 6 tables, and we have 6 colorful umbrellas on the tables. And it took more than one meeting to decide what colors that the umbrellas were going to be. Were they going to be all one color? Were they going to be 6 different colors? If they were going to be 6 different colors, what colors were they going to be? Who was going to choose the colors? So to get 28 homes to make a decision, so those kind of things are now made on a team level. They are not made on an entire plenary community.
So you have to have consensus of the team, but not consensus of every single resident.
So we have learned a lot. That was early days.
Okay.
So there's low level, medium level, and high level things. And so the teams can handle, they have a defined domain and things that they're allowed to do and make decisions of and spend their budget on.
Okay.
But when we talk about something that impacts the entire community, for instance, wanting to put solar on the common house, big expense, deadlines with tax credits running out and all that. And so we've had this has been perking now for 3 years. So it's a decision that is really difficult to make.
Yeah.
But we are finding that the more preparation we do and the more we talk to people individually ahead of time whom we know are going to have questions, because there are some people who will, just go into the minutest details, and it might not impact how they feel about it, but they want to know.
Yeah.
And so, now that we know that kind of thing, we know to talk to people individually and get those questions and find the answers and do the presentations. And so we're getting better at that process. And sometimes it still feels laborious, but it feels so good when we finally get there that we know that everybody supports the decision, or at least doesn't object to it.
Yeah. I want to hear more about the kind of collective care piece around aging. I know older adults in the LGBTQ community are twice as likely to live alone and less likely to have children than their non-LGBT peers. So how do those statistics line up with the realities that you all see in your community? Margaret?
Well, our community steps up, especially for short-term kind of things. We've got, I just recently had a hip replacement surgery that did not go well. I had a complication and I ended up in a rehab center for a month. And every single day there was someone from our community who came out and visited me at a rehab facility over in Chapel Hill.
Wow.
Which was not, it was at least 40-minute drive one way to get over there. And I kept a log on, I had a bulletin board that I had people write on and, put their name on every single day that they came to visit me. And it was just an amazing amount of support. And what a drudgery to visit somebody in a nursing home, But the contrast was that my older sister up in Indiana also was going through a rehab at the same time. And she was just whining and crying all the time because nobody would visit her, even family
Aw.
members, and which we have a lot of family up around her. And she said, "You're so lucky you live there, that all those people were supporting you." And it's like, well, we've worked hard to build this kind of support here. So just the co-housing mindset, it's like, of course we're going to support each other. That's just part of the structure. You've built that social capital, and that's what we do. But we're not going to support each other on a long-term basis if someone needs daily care forever. We don't go in and give each other baths. We do not, there's certain things we are not agreeing to do. We are not assisted living. We are not a skilled nursing home. We don't have those kind of credentials or anything like that. But we walk each other's dogs. We fix a meal. We run errands, go to the store, all those kinds of things. We are on top of, drive each other to doctor's appointments.
Yeah.
When you were talking, Margaret, you described like there are things we do and there are things we don't do. We're not an assisted living facility. We can't provide skilled in-home care. I guess I'm wondering how you all think about a phase of your life where you might need that, and how are you thinking about that now, and what will it look like to try to find, are there spaces like that that are LGBTQ affirming that you feel like are a next step, or how are you all thinking about that piece of the conversation?
Our goal is to be able to stay in our home because we have the means to have a full-time caregiver if we need. It would be difficult with the two of us. We're in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and each have our own room. And so having space for a caregiver to live in is difficult, but we would figure something out. But we also recognize that there's a limit.
Yeah.
And so we might not be able to stay until we die, but that's our goal.
Yeah.
And there is no place after her recent experience in the hospital and in rehab. I don't think there's any place around here that we would feel comfortable going to, having to go to. Every fear that we had was manifested during her stay in rehab.
In terms of how people responded to you as a couple or your ability to get your needs met?
A little of both.
Both. Okay.
We're lucky. I mean, I hire a private caregiver now 2 days a week for 8 hours just to get me to doctor's appointments and things because I don't drive.
Okay.
I use a wheelchair now. But we're lucky that we can do that. And there's a couple other families in our community now who use private caregivers on an hourly basis. But we know that a lot of people can't afford those kind of things. And so, unfortunately, we have to say that, if there comes a time when you would need to move out into an assisted living or a skilled nursing facility, we're sorry, but that would be the next step. And
we say that going in.
Yeah.
We have to make it clear that we don't provide any medical services. You're not guaranteed that somebody's going to give you a ride to the doctor 3 times a week or whatever. And that whatever you would have done in your private home before moving in, that's what you'll need to do here.
I'm curious about how your relationship has been affected by living in this community, how your romantic relationship, your own partnership has been affected by the dynamics of being in this community with other queer elders.
I think it's been great because it's really let us both experience what we need to and how we want to. I've been able to run off with and do little day trips or weekend trips when Pat's been wanting to do writing retreats at home or elsewhere. And I've had people that I could do that with, and that would have never happened if we were in a single family home somewhere. When I want to go play a game, board games or something, or go to happy hour. Pat usually doesn't go to the Friday happy hour, and I almost always go. And it's like I can just roll my wheelchair down
Yeah.
to the common house. And when I need some people contact, there's always somebody I can go find, and she can have her calm and privacy, and I can go out and play.
Yeah, Pat?
And since she's been in the wheelchair for 8 years now, I mean, it is the best of any world for us because she is so social.
Yeah.
And so she really can get her needs met and doesn't have to rely on me to take her out, or which is difficult for me because I have my own mobility issues. So, I mean, it's been fabulous.
So this community has existed for 5 years. What do you all hope for the next 10 years of the community and how it continues to evolve?
Well, I just hope that things continue to run more and more smoothly. As far as the processes and decision making, we've come a long way. Some of that was a little rocky the first few years. They say kind of between 5 and 7 years, you kind of really get things in good shape. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah. How about you, Pat?
Yeah, I think the community, I want to see it continue to mature. We've recently spent time on workshops and conflict resolution, which we probably should have done 5 years ago, but had other things on our mind at that time. But I'd like to see the community remain open to others' ideas as they come in and ways to improve what we're doing to make the community run smoothly.
How does Village Hearth compare to the vision that you had of this beach house full of women supporting each other, laughing together, making meals? Like, is it a full circle and improved, or how does it compare?
Oh, I think it's improved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's exponentially better than anything we had planned, that we had imagined.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for the conversation, for sharing the stories of the space with me, and for your time. I so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Anita.
Just ahead, we'll learn about other models for senior LGBTQ folks who want to age in community, like affordable housing, long-term care, and even mobile home communities. As always, you can hear the podcast version of the show by following Embodied on your platform of choice. We'll be right back.
Sources and methods, the crown jewels of the intelligence community. Shorthand for how do we know what's real? Who told us? If you have those answers, you're on the inside, and NPR wants to bring you there. From the Pentagon to the State Department to spy agencies, listen to understand what's really happening and what it means for you. Sources and Methods, the new national security podcast from NPR.
This is Embodied. I'm Anita Rao. Today, we're talking about the unique needs of LGBTQ seniors and models that exist to help them age in community. We just talked about Village Hearth, a co-housing community in Durham, North Carolina, for LGBTQ elders and allies. But co-housing is just one model. There are others, from market-rate apartment communities and condos to affordable housing complexes designed with LGBTQ elders in mind. But how do you go about finding a space to fit your needs? That's where the work of SAGE comes in. SAGE is a nonprofit advocacy and service organization focused on LGBTQ+ seniors, and it runs an initiative helping to develop more queer-friendly housing around the country. Jane Haskell is the Director of Impact and Engagement at SAGE, and she spent 3.5 years as an advocate for LGBTQ+ elders. Early on, she got insight into the specific challenges they face around aging.
So before I joined SAGE, I was working at a local organization here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I was working with a group of seniors to really bring them out of their homes and socialize. And when I was doing that work, I, of course, learned about some of the other issues that they were dealing with. One person in particular was living in an apartment and the landlord wanted to sell. And of course, this person has very limited income. They don't have familial support. They live on their own, don't have children, don't have family alive anymore. So they rely on social support. I struggled to help this person find one, affordable housing in general, because we know that there is a lack of affordable housing specifically for older adults. And then when you add the LGBTQ plus identity on top of that and want to make sure that the housing is welcoming, affirming, and really supportive of the needs of LGBTQ plus elders, it just makes it challenging to find something in Florida, among other communities across the country.
That's a really helpful example. And I'm curious if there are things about that person's life that made it like the stakes higher for them needing to find a space that was more explicitly friendly or catering to an LGBTQ person.
I think in general, people fear that they need to go back in the closet. This person was aging, they had multiple comorbidities, and were dealing with health issues. So I think they really wanted a place where they could feel safe, right? Because the only time they really left was for support groups, to go to the doctor's office, and that means they're home a majority of the time. And that really just makes them need a home that is safe, that is welcoming, that's not going to add to their mental health struggle or their physical health struggles.
I would love for you to give us a snapshot of the models that exist for queer affirming housing for seniors. If we kind of zoom out, like what are the range of models that we know of that have been created to cater to this group with specific needs?
So, one of the biggest and most used models that we see is the affordable housing model. That is primarily funded through LIHTC, which stands for Lower Income Housing Tax Credit. So states often have funds that they're able to designate for LIHTC developments. Developers are then able to apply for that funding and create such housing. I will say that that primarily exists in really urban communities, which makes it challenging for folks in rural communities to really access that housing. Currently, there are about 27 developments that have been created across the country. That results in about 2,000, units for LGBTQ affirming housing for our queer elders. As you can imagine, the need is much bigger than those 2,000 units. So it's important to look at other models, right? Are there rooms in houses that are available that folks are able to rent out to our LGBTQ elders and really welcome them into their home? There are also community land trusts, limited equity cooperatives. People are building accessory dwelling units or ADUs on their property, really trying to expand the types of housing that are available to LGBTQ plus elders, because we know, again, the LIHTC model is pretty limited. While there are quite a few folks in development at the moment, it takes time. One of the newest properties is called The Pride in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Boston. And that property took roughly 10 years from the ideation phase to opening and lease up. So it's not like this is going to open overnight and immediately be available for the need that exists within the LGBTQ elder community.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that one of the challenges is that for the most part, these queer affordable housing projects are located in more urban areas. So I'm curious to ask you about options and models that do exist for people living in more rural places. I know that there are some kind of very non-traditional ways of making community around like mobile homes and groups of mobile homes that are queer friendly or RV communities. I would love to know about any of those models or networks that have formed that could be alternatives for people who are farther away from those urban centers.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We do see communities of mobile homes, of RVs that are LGBTQ plus centric and again are more affordable. It's usually more affordable to rent or purchase a mobile home, an RV, and you generally have a greater sense of community because people are living close, similar to an apartment complex. When you're in a mobile home community, people live very close to one another. So there is that community centric way of life in those spaces. And they do pop up in more rural communities. There are networks, there are websites to be able to find these communities. And Sage has released some documents and created some resources to help people locate these types of housing. Another thing that's important to consider is making sure that we're educating ourselves, that we're educating our staffs of existing housing communities, whether it's affordable or not, whether it's a retirement community, a long term care community, assisted living facility, making sure that we are doing everything we can to make existing housing inclusive and welcoming to the LGBTQ plus community. The Long Term Care Quality Index is a program by SAGE and the Human Rights Campaign that is a benchmarking tool to help elder housing communities, whether it's long term care or not, go through their policies, go through their procedures, go through training to make sure that their existing policies, procedures, and programming is welcoming to LGBTQ plus elders. It's also important to remember LGBTQ plus staff because when staff see themselves represented and when they see their community being cared for, there's, greater job security. People are wanting to stay in these communities where they do see themselves represented. That's one angle of creating more equitable housing is working with existing housing and really ensuring that communities in rural spaces that do exist are inclusive.
Yeah, I want to ask you more about that because, as we've been talking about, there's more demand than there is supply for communities that are explicitly designed with LGBTQ folks in mind. And there are also groups of people who have higher needs, who need to be in a more skilled nursing facility, who need to be living with more direct care. So I would love to know, like, how does someone who is kind of looking for a place to live, who needs a space either in a community that doesn't have an explicitly LGBTQ affirming community or needs more care than the spaces that exist, what are things you can look out for when you're in that process to see if a place is going to be a good fit for you?
Sage has several resources to help folks locate LGBTQ affirming housing in their community, whether it's rural, whether it's urban, suburban. Like you said, a lot of times there are kind of affirming housing deserts, and we help people locate affirming services. One of the ways in which we do that is through the National Resource Center on LGBTQ Aging, which is a free website that anyone can access. We have several guides dedicated for LGBTQ elders themselves to help them find this type of housing. There is a resource in both English and Spanish that is titled Finding a Welcoming Long Term Care Community. And that kind of walks people through what questions should I be asking, which to expand further on that, it's important to know, will my children, if I do have children, will they be welcome in this community? Will my partner, if I am partnered, will we be able to share the same room? Just these basic questions like, what type of programming do you do? How do you see yourself reflected in this community? Are there photos in the brochures of same sex couples? Are there activities where you do see yourself wanting to participate in your full identity? So we do have guides like that. You can also go through the Sage Care website, which Sage Care is our training and credentialing programming. We work with a lot of long term care communities to, again, train them, make sure they are equitable. And we have a database of providers that have gone through this training. So we recommend folks look there to see what in their community is accessible. We also work with area agencies on aging. We educate these service providers to help them understand what is available in their community. Elders often reach out to, existing services in their network. And the more that these providers know what in their community is LGBTQ plus welcoming, the more we're able to refer people to really affirming and uplifting services and housing communities.
You are in your early 30s. So I just am very curious about what it has been like to do this work and dig so deeply into thinking about aging at such an early stage in your own life. Like, how has this work shaped your own sense of what you want your own aging process to look like?
What a great question. I am a transgender woman and I really didn't see myself aging. I think a lot of queer people struggle to see themselves aging because, one, we don't really see queer elder people in the media. You have to really know people in the community to see yourself and to see yourself aging. And that's how I found myself like thinking about aging. I started to meet transgender women who were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and that gave me hope that there is a future for me, that I do get to live a long life. I get to build a life that I want to exist in, where I can thrive, right? Not only survive, but thrive. So it feels like an honor to do this work. I always say that our elders are the ones who paved the way for us to be here today, even having this conversation, for me to be the out proud transgender woman that I am today, living in the state of Florida. I really owe it to my elders. So for me, it is a no-brainer. Like, how could I not do this work? How could I not help pave the way for elders who did that for me to be here? So I try to take all of the lessons that I learned from our elders and apply that to the work to better their lives. Because again, we want them to live even longer. We want them to have long, healthy, fulfilled lives.
My last question is just if you could kind of like send a message to your 65 plus self, a message in the bottle about what you want kind of queer aging in community to look like. Do you have a version of what that might be?
I just envision a place of love and acceptance. I hope that my future self feels supported. I recently got married, and I'm hoping that my partner is alongside me and that we both feel as if we can age in community with other LGBTQ plus people. I hope that our allies are surrounding us and showing us love and appreciation. We always say in the community to give our elders their flowers while they're still here. And I hope not only us, I hope not only we get our flowers, but the entire community, because again, elders have really paved the way for the LGBTQ plus community to be where it is today. And we kind of owe it to our elders. So I hope, that I'm able to rest. I hope that I'm able to thrive and live the life that I have worked hard and dreamed of.
Jane Haskell, thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself and your work. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. It's been an honor.
You can find out more about Jane Haskell, Pat McAulay, and Margaret Roesch at our website, embodiedwunc.org. You can also find all episodes of Embodied the Radio Show there and subscribe to our weekly podcast. Today's episode was produced by Kaya Finlay and edited by Amanda Magnus. Wilson Sayre provided editorial guidance. Nina Scott is our intern, and Jenny Lawson, our technical director. Quilla wrote our theme music. This program is recorded at the American Tobacco Historic District. North Carolina Public Radio is a broadcast service of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I'm Anita Rao.